What's up, guys? We are back with another Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts review, and this is kind of a special one. This is, in many ways, at least for me, kind of correcting ever so slightly the toy timeline, because Super Sentai Figuarts are back. We're taking a look today at the first of, I don't know how long running this is going to be, the first new Super Sentai Figuarts, and this is the Zenkaizer from Zenkaiger. So, you know, it's been, I don't even remember how long it's been since Sentai Figuarts kind of went away, but it has been a very long time. It was one of my favorite lines for a really long time. It was one that really got me super heavy back into toy collecting after, you know, a bit of a dry spell. So I'm really happy to be taking a look at a new figure that very much incorporates a lot of the new technology when it comes to Figuarts in a very familiar form for me. So we've got it here in kind of a standard small format style packaging for Figuarts. So you've got the figure there in the window, you've got a big shot of Zenkaizer there on the front, it wraps around to the side, and then the back of the box has a handful of product shots showcasing how he moves and a little bit of what he comes with. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package, our new Super Sentai Zenkaiger figure. You know, again, this is the first Sentai Figuarts in 6 years, 7 years, something like that. It's been a little while. You know, this is probably how D Amazing feels when he gets a new Kamen Rider Figuarts. I am very excited about this guy just because, I mean, it holds the potential of having a lot more. And we do know that we're getting at least one more. I think it goes up for pre-order tonight, actually, as of filming this review. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He still feels very familiar, but there's definitely a lot of new engineering here when it comes to Sentai Figuarts. So he's, you know, he's probably the best example going forward. But he still feels like he will fit in with the rest of them. So we've got a head that can look up only slightly, like it's just barely there, and it's, as you can see, it's because he's got this really rigid collar. He can look down really good though. You've got your tilt, you do have rotation. He probably gets, I'd say far enough, but I feel like he could probably go a little bit more. Arms will go up and out. Now we do have the shoulder pads to deal with, so his arms go out and then they rotate. The pads are on like a cantilever thing, so they can go up and they bobble around a little bit, so they are pegged at the inset of the pad, and then they've got the actual hinge on the shoulder itself. Now you can see in there you've got what would be a butterfly joint, but it's a big peg, so it allows for drop down effect, raising it, and then in and out like a butterfly joint. So you just have to sort of line it up once you've got him posed again. It does work pretty well. We've got our bicep swivel. You've got double jointed elbows. He only goes about that far out. I was thinking he'd get a little bit further, but that's as far as it goes. Still pretty good range though. It's not really much to complain about. Ball hinge at the wrist, so up and down, and then, you know, rotation. Just orient that hinge whichever way you need it to go. Torso, he goes backwards really far. Forwards not as much, and I think it's mostly because of this point. So you've got a torso cut, and this point prohibits him from going further without, you know, breaking that. You can tilt really good side to side, and then you've got rotation. It's not full rotation though, so he gets to twist, you know, shimmy side to side. That's pretty normal for a Figuarts though. Legs go out pretty much all the way. They kick forward, they kick backwards. You've got a twist here, and they do have a slight drop down as well. So you got your twist, double jointed knees, they go pretty far back. And then we've got rotation at the ankle. You've got a legit rocker down here too, so no ball hinge or anything like that. So rocker, really nice side to side, forward and backward, and we've got our toe articulation as well. So, you know, pretty normal by like today's standards for most Figuarts lines, but this guy is definitely different from the older Sentai Figuarts. So he definitely feels a little bit more robust. He's still going to line up just fine with them in terms of, you know, fitting in with that line, but he definitely has a little bit more on the majority of that line when it comes to, you know, just newer style Figuarts engineering. Now, as far as the aesthetics on this guy, I'm very happy with him because there is a lot that could have gone really wrong with his design. Now, he's not perfect. I do have a few minor paint imperfections on this guy, but for the most part, it all really works nicely. And he has one thing that is definitely a little bit, different for most figures, and honestly, I wasn't even really aware that this was a thing. He has a vinyl cape, and I guess I didn't even pay attention to it. I was surprised when I got him out of the box. I shouldn't have been, but I was. So, Zenkaizer is very much like a self-referential thing when it comes to Sentai. He very much evokes a very classic feel. So, early Sentai designs. He's got the huge V-fin. He's even got a 45 on his helmet. So this is very self-referential when it comes to its design for the suit. You've got various Ranger colors that make up his suit, and then just that helmet in particular is very classic Sentai. None of that is a negative. I'm just kind of pointing it out. But I think he looks really good. The gold on this guy is super metallic and glossy, as is all of the silver. This sort of rainbow patterning that he has on his arms, legs, and his torso does line up really, really well. I mean, granted, the more you move him, the more you're going to break it up, but that's to be expected. But it does line up pretty nicely. I do a little bit of a paint flub on his leg, but for the most part, it is very clean. Like, that's a lot of intricate small line work. I'm surprised to see it so clean. He's even got it on the backside there as well. I think overall, the sculpt work on him looks fantastic. It very much looks like a slender Japanese suit actor. So it's not a big, muscly kind of Americanized Power Ranger toy. This is a full-on Sentai Figuarts, so he's slender. He's not a huge figure, and we'll do some size comparisons. He's very small and svelte in many ways. Love the super big belt buckle here with the big V on it. And again, a lot of nice metallics, and all of it just looks really, really crisp and clean, and that's one of the big things I like with Figuarts in general. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea all the time, but I do really like it pretty much across the board when it comes to Figuart stuff. Everything is very factory fresh is the best way that I try to describe it. So everything is super glossy, super clean. Metallics are bright and vibrant, and everything just has a really good sheen and finish. This cape, again, was kind of a surprise. I don't know if I'm truly for or against it just yet, because it is very much its own thing. It doesn't have any posability really, but it is on there really, really well, so it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It's already permanently cinched like this, and it seems to stay just fine. It's a small half cape. I'd probably have preferred a real soft goods cape because, again, something with the wire, you can kind of get it up and out of the way. But this thing also doesn't really flop around haphazardly either, because it's not just a flimsy piece of fabric hanging off of him. It does have some rigidity to it since it is vinyl. So it's kind of cool. It very much, again, kind of evokes a classic feel. This is something you'd see on a much older toy in many instances, especially when it comes to Sentai. And I do think it looks really good on him. Like, it poses really well. Like, it very much displays nicely. In terms of getting him into more dynamic poses, you might have to get a little bit more creative, but I do think it looks cool. And then we have his helmet up here, which I absolutely love. So again, massive V-fin. You've got the 45 emblazoned on his forehead, but it's the very bug-like eyes that really work for me. So there's like a plate inside of that helmet underneath the blue translucent lenses that kind of give it a three-dimensional look. You can see those holes, and it adds a little bit of depth and shadow. And just the red and the white super glossy helmet very much kind of pops in the context of that big blue field that he has there. A lot of cool, contrasting, very clashing colors in many ways, but it does work to make for a really, really cool looking figure. And then as far as some size comparisons go, here we have, of course, our Zenkaizer in the middle. We've got a Jetman Figuarts here on the left, so this guy is very old by comparison, and we've got a Lightning Collection Red Ranger, to give you that comparison, because of course, as far as domestic lines go, that's the line to compare. So you can see that he is a little bit bigger than some of the older Figuarts. He's a little bit more robust in some ways. He's not really much taller, just barely, if any. But he doesn't seem to be as super, super slender as some of the older Figuarts. There are some that are going to kind of scale a little bit better, but for the most part, I still think he's going to fit in just fine. And then, of course, the Lightning Collection is going to be a little bit bigger. Figuarts always scale a little bit smaller than your quote-unquote 112s. These are a little bit truer to 112 scale. So he's not out of scale, really, but it doesn't line up perfectly either. And then let's do another Hasbro line. So let's move him aside. And here he is with a Deathwatch Mando. I think that matches up a little bit more. Black Series does skew a little bit smaller. And then let's do something much bigger. So here is an Ultimates, Super 7 Ultimates. So there's Lion-O. You can see he's much bigger, obviously. Let's move Armando aside. And here is Wolverine. So Marvel Legends. And this gives you a good idea because, of course, Wolverine is obviously a smaller Marvel Legend. And he lines up pretty well here. And then let's do one more non-in-scale kind of thing. Here is a NECA turtle, NECA-toon turtle. And you can see that Leo is just a smidge shorter than our Ranger here. So he's going to scale pretty okay with most 112-ish kind of stuff, even 110 stuff if you want, you know, because he is, of course, a little bit smaller, and your more monstrous kind of figures will work just fine being bigger and bulkier. But he's definitely going to look all right with other older Sentai Figuarts and pretty much any humanoid Figuarts in general. Now, as far as accessories goes, this guy unfortunately doesn't come with a lot. This is probably the area where he does suffer. We only get hands and his gun. So as far as hands go, you do get the fists on him in the box, and then we get 4 extra sets. So you get a set of splayed finger hands. We get a set of trigger finger hands. We get a set of just loose, you know, hands at your side, cupping, slightly gripping hands. And then we get a set of flat palm, chopping style hands. So a good array of hands. You get 10 total. And then we get his gun, the Geertlinger gun. This thing's pretty wild. There's a lot of detail on it, tons of unique sculpt. You know, it's even got the name tampoed on it. A lot of paint, blacks, reds, golds, blue. Kind of a gunmetal-y color up top. The actual Gatling on the end does spin. The sort of gear over here does spin also. I don't know the point of this spinning. Like, the instructions even call out that it can do it. So I'm not sure why it needs to for a toy, but it does do that. And then, of course, the gear also spins. It looks great. He can hold it really well. It's very secure in his hand, despite the fact that it does look a little big for him. He holds it really nicely, and it's sized up pretty well. It just looks a little chunky. It is kind of a fat gun, but it's got a pretty wild design, and he looks good with it. I wish he would have come with a few other things, but ultimately I'm happy that we do get this good array of hands, and this is probably the one thing I truly needed with him. At the very least, you know, something a little bit more signature. So yeah, overall, very, very happy with this guy. You know, like I said, I'm just really happy to see Sentai Figuarts back. That's exciting on its own, but this is a really solid figure. He does have a few little limitations at the head and the torso, just due to his overall design, but he moves really well otherwise. Honestly, not a great deal to be complaining about. His aesthetic, I think, is really nicely done. This suit translates into figure form very well, and they really did a good job with those metallics, with the glossy white, and that rainbow patterning. I do have a few little paint hiccups here and there, but it's barely noticeable. Otherwise, it looks fantastic. And he doesn't come with a great deal of accessories, but he comes with probably the bare minimum that you really need to be expressive with a Figuarts. And I'm really happy with just, you know, the way he looks, how he's able to move, and just having new Sentai Figuarts back in the line. It's just an exciting time again, and hopefully we'll get a lot more. So that's going to do it for this look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Zenkaizer. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.